And we are recording and broadcasting this, is that right? Because it's a public meeting, so you'll have to use these this time. Thank you.
Should I start over?
Hey there. Hey there. I'm Joy Meredith with Main Street Palm Springs, and I've also owned Crystal Fantasy in Palm Springs since 1987.
I'm Dean Levine. I own Black Book and the Evening Citizen, and I represent the Arenas District.
Dave Powell, Executive Director of Desert Business, the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce.
Nona Watson, I'm the CEO of the Palm Springs Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, Joe Wallace, CEO of the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership.
Hi, Jeanette Sanborn. I work at Grit Development.
John Pavelak, Watermark Homes, Mountain Gate.
Good afternoon. I'm Colleen Pace. I'm the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for Visit Greater Palm Springs.
Randy Garner. I'm representing Palm Springs Bureau of Tourism.
Hi, I'm Eric Graham. I'm just representing Ace Hardware Palm Springs and service manager down there for about 9 years.
Nice. Jocelyn Kane. I'm here representing the Coachella Valley Cannabis Alliance Network, CVCAN.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Blaisdell, City Staff Communications.
Flynn Fagg, Deputy City Manager.
Okay, great. So last time we actually came up with a whole list of different agenda items and topics, and I do have that list I can hand out later. But what we did is we picked 3 to discuss today, and then I have our full list that we can add to the future, although these 3 probably won't be fully decided today. So the 3 that we decided to talk about today are defining business districts like the Arenas District, and then creation of a business improvement district or districts, and then marketing campaigns. And we do have one marketing campaign that will come up in December that we want to talk about with the holidays. And then we can go through future agenda items. So as I said, this is open. People can discuss. But I thought when we start with the business districts, and I know Matt Robinson is very vocal about the districts that he thinks we should have. And part of it also depends on how the districts feel. But Dean, why don't you talk a little bit about what the Arenas District and what having that identified as a district has done?
Okay, so going on 2 years? About 2 years. Yeah, Pride, 2 years ago. We were proclaimed the Arenas District, which is our little cluster of businesses that are all LGBTQ plus businesses. And what that's done is it's identified the area. And it also helps with tourism. It helps with locals. The challenge for us is they always called us Arenas Road, and it was kind of mishmash. About 5 or 6 years ago, David Powell and myself actually organized all the businesses together, and we became an organization. We reached out to the city, and the city helped us become proclaimed the district. Since then, we have signage. It helps with media relations. When it comes down to, for us, we run into a challenge as a district because, again, the media's finally getting the name down. They'll do a news story and they'll say on Arenas Road. And we're working towards getting better information out there. Unfortunately, local mainstream media for us has overlooked us, period, since I've been there for about six plus years. I have never seen a feature story written about any of our businesses in any of in the Desert Sun. I don't believe in Palm Springs Life or KSQ or NBC Palm Springs. We do get stories on us. It's always news or sensational. They'll come down to the bars on Arenas every time there's a story about bars. Let's say the state of California is looking at closing bars at 4 a.m. And so they'll come down and do a story there, but they won't do a piece talking about what we do down there. And so for us, getting some awareness out there, that helps.
But let me jump on that. What it has done is given an identity to the area. So you're talking about the good things. It's given an identity. It's identified as the hub of gay business, small gay business in the city of Palm Springs. And it does have its benefits, its merits. It's just, I think, the visibility that Dean's talking about could be greater, but that also means that they would have to bring someone on to actually physically and actively pursue that and make sure, because when we were doing it years ago, we would get phone calls from whomever and from the city saying, what do you want to do on Arenas? This is what we're doing. Jay would send things. But I think it's just the visibility and working with the districts, and that's going to be a challenge for all the districts throughout the city. Main Street's fairly well established, and I think if the city starts creating these, it's going to be some kind of a collaboration to work with the city to promote.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do think it's to the city's benefit to be able to, for tourism, for marketing, for getting feedback on things, and if we'll get into business improvement districts. But if, right now, if there's an issue on Arenas, we can go to, Dean. If there's something on, downtown, it's Joy. But if it's Smoke Tree, there's nobody. I mean, there is you, but we haven't established a district, or the Curve District, as it calls themselves, and Matt has all these other ones on here. City Gateway, I don't know what that is.
That's the north end of town.
Oh, north end. So there's the Uptown Design, just Uptown Palm Springs, Downtown North, Downtown South, Tockwitz Corridor, Arenas, Historic Financial and Retail District, Sunny Dunes, The Curve, Smoke Tree and Saguaro, Backstreet Arts and Rimrock Center, and then community centers are Ramon at Gene Autry, Vista Chino at Sunrise, and Sunrise at Ramon. I'm not sure all of those are real marketing tools, but they are helpful for people to know. And some of them are probably stronger than others. I mean, certainly Uptown Design District is one. Smoke Tree, I think, probably there's a lot there. I don't know, do you have thoughts on having identified a Smoke Tree district?
You touched on Saguaro. Now, yeah, it's because we also have our businesses, I'm sorry. How about a microphone? We also have which one is it?
It's
Green, there we go. We also have our businesses across from us. Trivada, whatever, Trinidad, Saguaro, and those businesses that we don't want to leave them out. And we don't want to, the Curb, you also mentioned that, which is those businesses, the car businesses and going all the way down into Rimrock area. Those are businesses that I'm also interested in adding to, I want to say, my area, if I was actually doing that as a whole, all that whole area, the whole South Palm Springs area, whole South Palm Springs area. I have actually been wanting to do that for quite some time. I actually have a lot of communication with everybody within Smoke Tree and Smoke Tree Commons, a village, I call them, both of those in that area, and also Saguaro and the hotel across the street. Now, we're actually, I would do more out, and even the Rimrock. I know 3 and 4 business owners down there. And I've also, the new growth going down there, I know who those people are. So that's what I'm interested in looking at myself. I'm putting that out there.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I could add, because on this committee, we've talked about different business districts. We've talked about monument signs. I think we've had on this agenda before. So signage to direct people to the business districts. We talked about the design district or uptown, the what's it called, the arts district in my district, Backstreet Arts District, getting all the names right, and all of that. So Matt Robinson has proposed this. I think we've brought forward monument signs, branding, other tax incentives like creation of business improvement districts. So I think it's a really good idea, and it's time to do this. We've been wanting to do this for many years, like you said. So I think that's great. I'm really supportive of bringing that forward. I think it's just a question of, how would we have a process to define the districts? What would it include? Is it a monument sign? Is it, an association? What work is the chamber and others doing to organize? We do get contacted by people starting businesses who want to join those local business associations or districts. And so it's good for us to have those contacts. So I really appreciate the Mayor Pro Tem because you've always advocated for expanding the city's economic development work from just downtown to the entire city. We really rely on the businesses throughout the city, like in my district with Smoke Tree and others. I love that idea. I think this is probably too many. I know not everyone's looking at that, but the ones you listed off. But we did this sort of like with redistricting, right? We kind of come up with what are the communities of interest or what are the business communities of interest that go along together. We already have some existing ones like Sunny Dunes. And so, what can we build on? Like what's already there, and then what would be the process for staff to formalize that or, have the city recognize those.
I'll go ahead and jump in here. I think we would probably use a similar process as we use for our organized neighborhoods. And so what we might want to do is adopt an ordinance similar to the one that we adopted for neighborhoods to use that process to recognize business districts. I think in many ways it's very helpful when they self-determine what those districts are. However, I think we also need to look at being inclusive. For example, as you mentioned about Smoke Tree, that not only are we talking about the shopping center, but also the businesses across the street, just so that some businesses don't get left behind. But again, we can use a very similar process.
Yeah. And when I was saying the curve, I mean, on the west, I was talking about the west side where like El Mirasol is, but they've actually have identified groups there that include where Bar Cecil and Market is, and sort of expanding their area. But I like the idea of sort of identifying areas and letting the district sort of decide. If we go into a financial thing with a business improvement district, then those areas are going to want to have their own representation. And so that's where it will sort of tie in, and I think that will actually spur further development of business districts, because some of them, which may not be as clear, like Vistachino and Sunrise, which is not really a cohesive area, they've had certain issues that are everybody ties into, specifically like homeless and things like that. So there may be natural formations going from the one PS. So how do we do that?
So with the concurrence of the rest of the city council, what we would do as staff is bring forth an ordinance to establish the process for organizing business districts. And so that's something that staff can do relatively quickly.
May I suggest then, and I've been talking about this as Christy knows for I don't know how many years, and Flynn knows I just ramble on about things like that, but it might be a benefit to bring not only the parties together, but kind of similar to what we were talking about the holiday thing, bring people in a room, let's get the map on the wall, just before it has to go to the point of going to council, and just sketching out things, put it out there, float it to see what people think, see how we can find out from the city what number of businesses are there, try and do some outreach, work with the chamber, work with associations and us that we all have, and then see what can be established, and then come to council with a better package, have staff come to council with a better package to say, now we have, it's like one PS, start at 5 or 6 and then grow up into 9 or 10 if it's needs.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we would want to see happen, is that we wouldn't come forward with a map right off the bat saying these are the districts, but rather as business owners get together and determine their districts, we would then formally recognize them. But in order to do that to begin with, we do need to adopt a formal process.
You have to go through that first.
Yeah, okay. And that, again, we can do fairly quickly and easily, and hopefully get that ready to go by or before the next meeting if you want to go that quickly.
I have a question, just, I don't know if it's technical or whatever, but property owner versus business. I'm super curious, sort of, as far as the BID is concerned, like, how and are these
So
conversations happening?
there's two different things we're talking about. One is just in a business district, which
Just
is
an
just a
outline.
marketing,
Got
that's,
it.
that's what Arenas is. There is no financial
Right, I got that.
contribution, whatever. So that really has to do with the business operator in
Right.
that area. The business improvement district that we'll get to, that's a different discussion.
So we're not there yet.
We're not
So
there
the
yet.
ordinance that he's just talking about is just simply,
To designate
okay.
districts not with any financial requirements, but rather it's a group of businesses coming
Sure,
together
yeah.
that the city formally recognizes.
but to what end, we don't know, just to recognize.
It's kind of like our neighborhoods where there is a point of contact who heads up that business district, primary point of contact with the city, represents the other businesses within that district, those kinds of things. So it's really more of an organizational tool more than anything, which can also be for marketing purposes and
Right,
other
and,
things.
is it okay if I weigh in here a little bit? Okay, two thoughts. One is, I think you should have input from the stakeholders in the marketing world, right? If there's a big part of this is a marketing thing, if you've got, again, 12 districts, it's not gonna work. There has to be, Randy's gotta go solicit, articles and stuff on behalf of Palm Springs. He's gotta have something to sell. So a district needs to be something that he's got to figure out what that is. And so their input, it might be a larger district than a smaller district, and you have less districts than many districts, because there's got to be something to sell and something to market. The other thing is you also, with a larger district, might end up with, and it depends on what the district is, actual human beings being stakeholders in doing something. Eric will do something in his district, you'll do something in yours, I'll do something in mine. Reality is most business owners don't show up. Look at this meeting, okay? This affects the entire city, and we're the only ones here right now. So you had how many in your meeting this week?
Tuesday,
Yeah,
that were actual businesses,
yeah,
12,
yeah, and how many people from the city?
and I invited 600.
Yeah, so the problem is that once you delineate what they are, you're actually gonna need somebody to speak up.
So the other thing, the marketing is one part, and that is a little bit harder for some people, areas to market than Arenas. But the communication, which is a big part of 1PS, that is actually happening, because we do hear from people on the Curb District saying, we're talking to all our neighbors about this issue or that issue. And so I think the designation of creating this 1PS would spur that on, because right now, the way I hear it from some of them is they see themselves as not part of the business community. And so that's why they're not always at the table. Now that, if Eric comes and says, I have now spoken to 40 or 30 whatever businesses, and this is our position on whatever the issue is, or this is what we really need from the Bureau of Tourism, and you can go back with something, I think that would actually help make it move forward faster when they can see that there's actual results. And some of them may vary. I mean, some of them may be, the gateway saying, we just want to get more businesses here, and it may be very small. And the Backstreet Art District has a very specific marketing issue. And then they've also had city issues, with the roads and things. So I think sort of going through the process will start to do it. I know it was not easy with Arenas, but it is a very, from a council point of view, if we have a question about what does Arenas district think about it, we go to you, assuming that you're going to out all the neighbors. And you have all of those businesses showing up at your meeting.
Sometimes.
Well, a lot of them, but they're not showing up here, because they see you as here.
That was going to be one of my questions. How did you actually pull all those people together 2 and 3 years ago when you started this? And that's my struggle now, is I go into the businesses and they listen to me for 5 minutes. And then I'm down here from,
It's hurting cats. I mean,
Yeah.
in all sincerity, every single business owner has responsibilities, and they're pulled in 5 different directions. Hospitality owners have different schedules versus retail owners. Part of the challenge is getting people to see the value in it. The first few years, I was yelled at constantly that the meetings were too long. And we'd have a meeting once every 2 months. So it's not even that consistent.
Just to, not to cut you off, but it's,
Yeah, go
it's
for
to
it.
say what the value is. Why do you want to do this? Explain the value and go from there. And I think once people go there and the first couple of meetings, they're going to say there is no value. And after that, when they start seeing that there's a city council member is going to be there, that it's going to be organized on concepts of what business issues are going on, things like this, things of, business improvement districts. We come back, we ask you, and you spread it. I think that's how you start. You add the value as the district. People will then gang on board. They did then. There was a lot of events down there, so that's of course what they wanted to talk about with Pride, et cetera. And I think it's a good movement to start, and whether it's 4 or 6 or whatever number it is, that's fine, and then build from there. San Francisco has the concept, I may have mentioned this before, Council of District Merchants. And they have a number of them, probably more than what we would want to. And that's a structure that's very similar. When I was up there as a community manager working up there, they had the same thing. It was basically a 1 PS for business. And then it went fed into a board that went together, and then they had the ear of the city. And I think that's kind of the similar thing that 1 PS does, which obviously works very well. It's got to start somewhere.
right. Love it.
I think it's very important for everybody to understand in these different areas what they have in common with each other, because even like where you're saying across the street and the hotels and stuff, but Smoke Tree is such a great neighborhood center for people that it might require some attention on its own. And then to just decide like we do with Main Street, and I know you do with Arenas, there's issues you want to discuss, like homelessness. Like, look at the businesses on South Palm Canyon when they got together and we all met at a space there on the 400 South block, and there was the police there, and they felt very empowered by that. Now some of the people are no longer there, and so it falls apart in that situation. But, and then other things like for marketing of business, which is quite a different thing. So, I traveled in California to study bids on my own money when we had our business improvement district. And when I would go to California Downtown Association, they would say, well, how do you fund it? And I said, oh, we don't. We just do it, And so we did end up with a business improvement district. And how did that happen? I used to like to take a half sheet of paper with some verbiage of what we're working on and maybe a meeting date. And if people want to talk, I'll be glad to talk to them, but otherwise I just would leave a flyer. Now, I know we're a little paper touchy and stuff, but it was a half a sheet of paper, so I hope that counts, that I was trying to be sustainable even back then. But just to have something to leave behind, because it might not be the owner or even the manager of the business. On Arenas, you all have so much in common there, and you work, I'm just saying from the outside, it looks like you guys work together really well. Maybe, it doesn't matter, but it looks like you do.
But we do. Like, realistically, because this is what everyone's going to be dealing with. Everyone, and you nailed it, right, when you studied it and stuff, is finding the commonality. And what you were talking about when you were saying, like, the Backstreet Arts District, right, they have road repair issues and stuff like that. And awareness, right, signage, getting to know where everything is. Those are commonalities that everyone's going to have. There will be differences, but you also have to have groups of human beings that are going to be able to talk about that and work through it and focus on the commonalities,
This is exactly how 1 PS is. And if you look at the 52 neighborhoods, there are some of them that meet once a year and they don't really have issues, and they may just have a get-together. There are other ones that are active every month with issues and and events and fundraising and really good communication. And so I think that's exactly how this will come about. And I think, I mean, basically what Flynn's saying, you're saying that we just need council to agree that we're gonna have this, and then we come up with what the specific neighborhoods are.
Without a number, just saying the concept.
Yep, exactly.
And then, just so I can ask, and just for Jocelyn's point, because we've been talking about it for a while, so, and what I'm hearing is the goals and the problems we're trying to solve, so marketing, so joint marketing, if there's ways that we can come together and businesses can collaborate or share costs or, you know, market together and brand, better communications, both with the city and with the community or with, customers, organizing around specific issues and solutions, like the backyard art district that had traffic issues and others. The city has been looking for ways to support our businesses better, and so we've talked a lot about here that we have access to some businesses, but not a lot. There's a lot that we're not capturing in our net when we send things out, and so being able to know how many, you know, XYZ type of businesses, and then organize around common issues so we have solutions that you can bring forward. So I don't want to create more work for anyone, and we're obviously sensitive to city staff and capacity, and the city has taken on 1PS. And so that's been a lot of work for the city, but we also get a lot of benefits in hearing directly from people and having people organize.
If I may, on that last comment, I actually think it might be a little bit less work for the city, especially on the communication side, because you're going to have the groups there that you have a path and a funnel to, and then it goes out there. Amy's list is 5,000 names, you know, probably 10 times that, but then you can make sure those 15 people or 10 people are sharing it with them, so now it's 25,000. So I think the communication starts, development, and everything else builds from there.
Yeah, if I could piggyback on that, David makes a good point. We have really good communications through 1PS. We have a city staff member that sends out everything to the neighborhood reps. So each neighborhood has a rep, and that person receives every bit of marketing information, city events that we send out, and then that gets furthered to the people that live in the neighborhoods, and it's a really good way to communicate. It's extremely effective. So I think, you know, if we could, with each district, we just, you know, designate a rep, and that is a good way to get the word out.
Yeah, I think this idea of the communication, this will all form naturally once we start to say, and it will change over time, because then people will say, well, no, we want to annex this other place into our business area, or we don't want to include them. But I think the communication that will go out, and we now have a business administrator who can help, or we will, who can facilitate this. Right. And it'll be ideal because, you know, it's been a long time since anybody, you know, Joy's at the table and Dean's at the table, but it's been a long time since, like, Smoke Tree is weighing in on whatever issue is going on, or, you know, or the Gateway District is.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and we heard about, a lot of this has come up with homeless issues, but, you know, we heard from a lot of people on Vista Chino and Sunrise, but not in any organized fashion. And so this would now give them some kind of a venue, a format to do it. And I think there's a few that have already, if you're there, and I know the Curve people are talking, the Backstreet Arts District is, and Uptown is already sort of there, but not quite formed. So there are ones that are already going at that.
Got to start somewhere.
Exactly. Yes, a lot of this stuff that we often talk about, and I start talking with people, they want to talk about the homeless issue. They want to talk about this specific issue that they want to talk about. And I try and steer them in the right direction of going, it's not just about that issue. It's about this issue, your plan, your growth, my growth, us working together. That's where I'm like, how did you actually get everybody in the reins in? And that's where I come, that's where I do.
We also have, what, 11 or 15 businesses? We only have like 11 to 15 businesses, depending on the year.
70.
Yeah, so that's easier than 70 businesses. Yeah.
I'm going to ask if there's a way to identify this that's different from a business, like the words are so similar, and I think people are gonna get confused. And what Joy's talking about, when you're talking about California Downtown Association or BIDs, is very structurally different. And so I get that what it is now and the difference in the value for each and every person, but I think there needs to be a separate name because I think it's confusing.
So why don't we just call them commercial districts?
I don't know what the right name is, I don't know,
It
but.
could be district merchants, but I know you probably want to move on since we've gone on this, but I will agree, and I believe that Nona, but especially with us, we'll be glad to promote, see everything we can to push out, and to work with city to say, how can we make sure that everybody is aware of what's going on to participate in this, participate in the discussion, and participate in the development. So I don't speak for Nona, but I know she's nodding, saying yes.
No,
We're always on the same page. We're on the same
Of course,
page,
David,
always.
I agree with you. I think anytime you have a personality, you have an area that has an identity, it's easier for people to relate to it. And if you think about marketing, we have a magazine that goes to every resident, 32,000 of them. In the city has 6 pages. So if we were highlighting these different areas and letting people think of them as having an identity, it's easier than thinking of the city and all the businesses, right? So I think it's a really good direction to go. And also, if there's an issue, it's easier for one person to come to the chamber and say, how do we get tourism in this area? Or what can we do? And then I can go, oh, we can do something in this area without it being so vast. So I think it's a great move.
Do we have enough now to bring to?
Oh, he does.
Yes, and I'll coordinate with you offline in bringing this forward to council.
Can I just say one more thing? So I think that the initial plan has to be kind of loosey-goosey a little bit, and then you have to go to where people are. You don't invite them to City Hall. You're going to go to Smoke Tree. You pick whatever time and day it is, and you make sure that you could have a meeting somewhere where they are. Because we're all business people. We don't get to just leave whenever we want to. We're trying to run a business. So I think that is something also that's really important, is just respecting the fact that these are businesses, not people that just want to go play golf or something. We're trying to put them together like that. And then from that initial meeting, you'll see that the cream of the crop is going to rise, and you're going to find your leaders in that moment. I mean, it'll strike you immediately that person is going to run it because they care. Because you have to care to do this. It takes a lot of time away from other things, and you need to get that core group together, especially because we're talking about volunteerism here. So
one thing I would say, that one of the challenges we have with 1PS is that it's very hard for people to reach all the neighbors because you don't get email addresses and all that. However, and I know we talked about this briefly last time with the business database, we actually can start to get that access. So that makes it a little bit easier to be able to, if we start to use that to say, what area are you in? And then the city could actually say, here's the 60 emails for your businesses, and now we can invite them all to one meeting together.
I walk all of my properties all down, and I've talked and tried to get through to people. And I've thought about, should I just call Nona and have her give me a list of people who's on the chamber, who's not, instead of those who walk in and don't want to talk to me because they're not part of the chamber or they're not part of this. It's been difficult for me to actually go and do that the last few years. Then, as I was speaking earlier with our council person here, in reference to COVID hit, and it all just went downhill from there. So starting it back up again after all these years has been extremely difficult for me. I'm glad. Yeah.
We're there with you. We're all together.
Okay, so we're all agreed we're going to move forward with this.
Yes.
Flynn's going to make it happen.
Yep.
And we're all going to be behind him, and we're all going to be positive and make it work.
You have witnesses.
I have witnesses. And and Matt will be happy.
I can't even believe this. I'm going to go to his house. I don't know where he lives, but I'm going to find it.
Okay, so this actually does lead into the discussion about business improvement districts, which I know Joy has information and Jay has a lot of information. So I'll leave it to Jay.
I'm so glad Joy's here because she has the experience of having done this with
Because I'm
Palm
old.
Springs already. not that at all. So I have a few slides, and we can just go through these, and I'll just go through these, and then we'll talk. Okay, so as we're talking about, business improvement districts are separate entities from what we've been talking about as just a business identification or merchant district. So we will work on the namology for how these things are named. In general, business improvement districts provide additional services to a specific geographic area. So the properties and the territories do need to be identified because there's an assessment, and the property owners and businesses within that assessment area are the ones who will be getting the additional bills on their business license or property taxes. It's a fee, it's not a tax, and is not to be used for general governmental purposes. It needs to be above and beyond what government would provide. And based on some information we found, $250,000 to $1.3 million is the typical assessment revenue that comes in. But there are larger ones, such as San Francisco Tourist Improvement District, which generates $27 million each year. But that's also operating Moscone Center and a number of other facilities in San Francisco. So one of the types of the business improvement districts is a property and business improvement district, and I'm going to go through three types. Essentially, this one is an assessment on real property and businesses for basically general services, cleaning trash, security services, parking, special lighting, business attraction and marketing, and beautification and decoration. And one of the examples of this type of property bid is Old Pasadena, and they use their bid revenues for outdoor film festivals, sidewalk washing, and 24-hour street patrols, and a team of ambassadors. Another type is the business-based improvement district, so just the businesses, not the property owners. So again, still within a specific geographic area, your neighbor may be outside of that area and won't have to pay this, but they may get some of the benefit of it, whether that's fair or not. So as the areas are generated and planned, it's important to think about who should be included and how those should look. This one, just in the examples I had, talks about physical improvements such as benches, trash receptacles, decorations in parks, and activities that promote the area and providing music in public spaces and promotional activities. West Hollywood is an example of this type of business where it has more than 300 art, fashion, dining, beauty, and other types of businesses that they utilize a website that highlights each business and have social media and events and initiatives that build that community between the members. We've been talking about each of the members getting together and maybe creating some synergy to build businesses and to strategize. And the third type is a tourism-based improvement district. So these are essentially taxes on hotels, well, I should say assessments on hotels, to raise awareness of destinations, sponsor events that attract visitors, essentially to impact and move the needle on tourism in a particular area. Again, the San Francisco Tourism Impact District was the example that was provided, but in the Coachella Valley, we do have a small T-bid for Palm Springs hotels, 49 rooms or less. And there's the larger T-bid for 50 rooms and more throughout the Coachella Valley. So, which is through the, the Greater Palm Springs Convention and Visitors Bureau. Yeah. Thank you. Visit Greater Palm Springs. So as we talk about the bid formation process, each of these is slightly different. Excuse me. There are public hearings that are required, as we know, for the property-based improvement districts, business improvement districts. Is slightly different where 20% of the businesses within the district would come in with a petition, let the city council know, and if a majority vote in favor, the city council would then conduct 2 public hearings. And if less than 50% of those businesses protest, the city council can approve that bid. And the tourism bid, thank you so much, also involves 50% of those businesses that pay 50% of the assessment submit a petition to the council, and would require 3 city council hearings to hear protests, and then can be formed for an initial term of 5 years with a possibility of a 10-year renewal after that. And so, you know, those are generally the types of bids that are out there. Forming them also requires something called a management district plan, and this is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. All these great ideas and thoughts are assembled into a document that the city council would review and approve as the management district plan. As a charter city, the city can also choose its own way to assess businesses for a business improvement district. So there are some flexibility for the city of Palm Springs as a charter city. And other program options, what does happen with other cities is they've used business improvement districts to improve transportation, promote sustainability, and to address homelessness, and work with nonprofits to provide food, shelter, and other assistance. So with that, let me also go to a couple of the district management plans, just so you get an idea of what those look like and what's involved with them. This one's for the old Pasadena property-based business improvement district that I mentioned. And I'm just going to flip through to the budget so you can see kind of how they allocate their funds. So environment, safety, beautification, pretty basic work program, and every year as the funds roll in, the new budget would determine how they spend them. And of course, the plan describes the benefits, has zones for the assessments, and other information along those lines.
Joy, which one was Palm Springs looking at?
Well, it was just called the Business Improvement District, but it would fit under this one that's called the Business.
The B bid.
B bid, yeah.
That's what we did.
And right, and it had to be, you had to get 51% of the people to not want to do it in order for it to not happen. And the beauty of that is the people that don't get involved anyways are the same people that weren't going to come and protest.
So,
It doesn't exist anymore?
Well, it doesn't. When we had a different city council, and I felt they were a really good city council too, it's not being disparaging, but Steve Punet cast the vote that made it 3-2 to make it voluntary, and nobody wants to pay their bid fees if your neighbor doesn't have to pay it. So it virtually got rid of that. Honestly, I think he did so many great things, but that was not my favorite.
So is the B bid based on business license or business locations?
Well, I don't know what the ones are that you looked at, but the way that we did it, it was based on gross sales, and it started at only $67 a year for some of the smallest businesses, so that those that really couldn't afford it wouldn't be hurt by it. But the most expensive, I think, was like $500 a year. And then the city matched those funds. And one of the ideas with it too is that it could not supplant anything that the city was already doing. It had to be new things, and ours was, that we had here in Palm Springs was all marketing-based, because we wanted to get that. And we weren't really getting it. So it wasn't any of the clean and safety stuff like other cities have, because we didn't have that kind of a budget. But it did give businesses the opportunity to come together and speak and give their input on what they thought marketing might be, and what would work for them. And it really has to come from the businesses.
So assessments are on gross sales, not on square footage.
Correct. They did that on gross sales. There were some other things too. I think on restaurants it had to do with seats, but it was very reasonable, because we were just giving it a try. Those were I think it might have been like 2008 or something. I mean, those were hard times. We were suffering. Downtown was gray and empty. We needed help. Now it's much more lovely.
No, that's fine. I just put this up just as another example of how Napa Valley is using their bid funds, and that's it. So I think you've got a chance to look at that.
So that's their county, or what's the
Probably for the whole
agency? It's
valley,
like,
overall.
it's like our greater CVB's budget, sort of,
I would
similar
say so, yes,
agency.
not necessarily the city of Napa.
So just to narrow down the discussion, it seems like we already have the T-bid, the tourism-based, we have covered in a lot of different other ways. That doesn't quite make sense. The P-bid is if Grit wants to just basically pay for this whole thing, because there's certain landlords who own a lot of property. And I think, and their interest is, their interest is going to be more infrastructure or things like that. It seems to me what we had, the B bid, is what really makes the most sense in terms of marketing. And one of my questions is, we have a lot of business licenses that aren't brick and mortar. Were they included in that? So it's only brick and mortar?
No, it was just brick and mortar businesses for sure, yeah. But, I mean, there were some other irregularities to it, like a salon, but each of the hairdressers had, I don't think they call it that anymore, but each of the stylists had their own business license, so they had to pay $25, just for an example, and then the business itself paid a different amount.
Do all vacation rental owners and real estate
We didn't
people
have
them?
that then, so I don't know. We didn't have it.
That's actually an important point, because the T-bid, the hotels that may be in that district are already paying
For sure.
an assessment.
Right now.
Exactly.
How-
They are.
How do you
They
unpack
are.
that? And what exactly is that? You have the B bid and you have the T bid, and who are you marketing to and what are you looking for? Because I think that would be the big question, is I could just picture it. What am I now spending more money on? What am I getting for what I'm spending my money on? And you got to be able to answer it. And so that's the question. And I believe every district would have different needs. So a B bid would be for one district, a B bid would be for all districts. How does that work? And how does that work from a city functioning thing? Because if you're now collecting a tax and individual things and different districts, that could seem like a lot of work.
I think the collection of the revenues is just, can be, for a B bid, just folded right into the business license process. So staff would be able to manage that. It's maybe another code that says divert these funds to Palm Springs B bid. So then that would be the budget and build up for the bid board members to decide what to do with and programs to have. And as you say, it could be a diverse set of programs. Just in the initial, early discussions we've had, where we've kind of broached the possibility of business improvement districts. A lot of businesses at the time were complaining about homelessness. We talked about the group that started on South Palm Canyon. Some of their suggestions and recommendations was, can you put more lighting in here? Can you do security cameras? And as you hopefully know, we have ventured out and started security camera programs, making that available to businesses. But the lighting's a little trickier because whose energy, whose property would you be on for that? And that was, say, a possible program for a BBID in the South Palm Canyon area. Now, other areas, maybe marketing. You may have very strong needs for getting the word out. Maybe it's some public amenities and facilities like misters up and down Palm Canyon or shade structures that, would be very expensive, but, possibly could be something that serves many businesses up and down Palm Canyon in one area. Smoke tree, maybe that is additional security, maybe that's marketing. You probably have a much better idea than I do. So it's just districts, area, I won't call them regions, but it's, not quite regions that would help define what to do there.
So is the BBID still on the books, do we know, for the city of Palm Springs? We probably still have that in our code unless we purged it. It'd be helpful to know that, to know if the BBID exists and if we could just apply it or reinstate it or have a discussion about the payment. Was it just for downtown or what was was it overall for businesses in the city?
It was to Chiva, to Ramon, Palm Canyon, Indian, Bellardo Museum Drive, and all the side streets in between. And then each of those had a representative, which may or may not have been the same representative from Main Street. It might have been somebody else. That somebody else didn't want to maybe take over all of that too. So each of those, so from Ramon to Tuckwitz, there's 2 districts in there. From Tuckwitz to Alejo, there's 2 in there. Jeffrey was the one for the 100 North block. I have 200 North. Kim from Power Yoga has 300 North, and then 400 was kind of split up. Uptown had 2 representatives. Keith McCormick had North Indian. Fisherman's Market had South Indian. So we broke it all down so that everybody could take a bite off of it. It didn't have to be, taking over the entire thing. So, and I think that's really the only way to do it if you want it to be something that is very inclusive of the businesses, is to give everybody a small bite, not, yes?
For a geographic area, so having that
Yes.
defined geographic area for the BBID.
A lot of people might not know, I know Jeffrey does, that even when we used to do the downtown map, so it was color-coded. Uptown was orange, and that's why there are orange bike racks out there. And before we had the excellent public art benches and we had those other trash cans, they were striped with that color. Mine and Jeffrey's block was blue. No, it wasn't. It was green, because that's prosperity color. And we also, so that was striped. And then we also had banners that in Uptown, Downtown North, and Downtown South. And it said North on it, and it had the color. So everything was very coordinated at that time.
So this
We had a
also,
plan.
this also ties into if you have whatever we call them now, business districts or commercial districts, because we could expand it. You have Smoke Tree and you have Vistachino, and they have different issues, and now they could have a seat at the table as to what they think the money should be spent on. I mean, and we've had issues where downtown, we want to do events, and Arenas wants to have an archway or thing, whatever it is. So there are different things that have come up at different points that are like, go into the city to fund, and there really is not a lot of sources of funds for that. But this would be sort of a matching program that, I mean, if we have a template, it seems like we sort of follow that, right? And look how we expanded it given our time.
I'm just curious, like you just brushed past and sort of indicated that like maybe it's not politically palatable to do a PBID, But like the ones that I know of just pass through to businesses anyway. So I'm just wondering if you can, I might just be naive and it's probably a stupid question, but.
My guess is because you're going to have people who want to determine how the money is spent. And so just taking arenas, for instance, I don't know that their landlords are really interested in creating an archway, you know, promoting the arenas district or something. I think they may be concerned about.
But here's the problem. Arenas has 15 businesses in it. Let's say you assess $500 from 15 businesses. That's still no money. And if you match that, that's still no money. Other places have much larger things. Then you have Measure J. Then you have the police funds. So which part gets to pay for managing homelessness? And why should the B bid pay for that? So those are all the things that are going to come up from that. A B bid would not work for a small district.
So it could be grown, but I think. Oops, it could be grown, but I think the idea is it's not replacing what city already spends. The city has money to spend on homeless. So basically this, maybe security is a slightly different issue, but the city is addressing homelessness through our general fund and our affordable housing fund and other things. So that is not something that it would be up to the area to define. And the area may be, the business improvement district may be beyond just what your commercial district is. So you could be part of the Tockwoods Corridor one for something that you want to do. So these are all things that have to be worked out. Yours is probably the most singularly defined district, so it's probably an anomaly, you know, versus Smoke Tree or downtown or uptown or the other one. So I think, and we're not giving the answers now. The real thing is, do we want to try and move forward? And if we have a template, that seems like the best place to start.
Yeah, I think that's the question is, what's the need of the businesses? So we know no one wants to add another fee or tax or anything like that, but we do get a lot of requests for business projects, and so we do try to find the funds, but it becomes difficult to make them happen, like the archway or the entrance to Arenas or other issues. Even monument signs and things that look at 1PS got all their branding and monument signs. They went and did that because sometimes the city is slower on then smaller projects. It's harder for us to get done because we're so big. So yeah, I think that's the question here we're presenting is what would be the benefit of this? Is it possible it would be beneficial?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. I think that two things. One is your business administrators will be very busy from day one. Hopefully they know that. And two is it could be a natural progression after going the first step of doing the business districts or the merchant districts. And I don't disagree with Jocelyn about the name. By doing that first, and then you'll be able to go to the next step and get their buy-in or their feedback as you have these organized things. You're not talking about something that has to be done in 90 days. And I think it's going to be an evolution through that. So, you know, if the deputy city manager checks and sees if it's still on the books, great, then you know that's aside. The second is start with the defining of the merchant districts, and then this becomes the next thing. So I think it's all a good thing, but it's just going to take a little time.
Yeah, I think this is a longer process than the commercial districts, but I think if we have something on the books and we can see now that our city has changed, because we do have these other areas of the city that make sense, and we sort of look at how this could potentially work. But
I agree. Does it have to be geographically defined? Are they very specific geographic districts? Do they ever do them for industries? Like T-bid, right, would be tourism. I saw that it's within a district too. But I'm just trying to think through because we have so much. The problem is, I think in general, that we've been pushing for and that we've been working with is getting more city staff to support businesses, and then that helps grow the economy, and it just all makes sense for us to do that. That's why we've hired this business administrator person, but finding this funding for staffing and having a more robust staffing is what's needed to get some of this stuff done on the city side. So, if it were larger than a very small geographic area where it's hard to find real money. I mean, what is the number you say of the total number of businesses we have
well,
in the
licenses,
city?
I think there's 29,000 licenses, but that includes everybody.
Non-brick and mortar.
Individual
Yeah.
consultants like me.
Right.
And others.
So the question is, what could we, is this the only tax or fee model? Or are there other models that we would want to kind of solve those main problems that we're facing
I think
as
Santa Barbara, La
businesses?
Jolla, I think Brandon owns Javiana, says that they just add on to every business license.
Right.
And they have hired a person now whose sole job is to market, the businesses, and they have a board of their own businesses. It's a staff person. So there are other models there that aren't solely by small districts for this.
I think Jay had the answer to your question, though, Councilmember, because she asked about geographic. I think you're going to respond.
Yes, I believe it does have to be specific geographic area for business improvement districts, particularly because of the way the assessment works, property taxes work. But there may be other tools, right?
Yeah, that'd be great. And sorry, I have to leave at 5 to make it for daycare. And we're at 4:30 now, so I just want to be thoughtful of time. But yeah, I support. I think what it would be great to have a further conversation at a next meeting about like what are those goals, like what would we want to achieve if we have marketing support already. What is it that we could get from this, and then look at see if there's other tools to get there, like an overall
And let's look and
business
see
license.
what the structure was before, so if we're not recreating something and how we can just adapt it, and then we go from there. But this is a long process, we know that. And,
I agree.
but
Putting goals together in like a plan of a year, or those goals, there's the way I kind of work, I guess. I work at a year, 2 years, 9 months, or whatever. I'm kind of looking at that going, how do I get there?
Yeah.
Because as a business person, I've got a limited amount of time
Yes.
to move forward.
again, just the way this other community does it, they've used these, people put in the money, and then somebody else is basically running the whole, the programs and gets, so there's different models for it. We're not the first place to do it, so I think, and it's not even the first time we've done it. So we have the basis to start and at least progress this forward. I mean, I don't see anyone saying this is a terrible idea, we shouldn't even look into it.
I was ready to argue today. I'm just going to tell you.
I don't think we know enough.
I
We
was
don't
gonna-
know. We
You
just don't know.
No, I think.
Oh, I intended to argue and complain about this before I got here, but
About not
I'm
having it?
really enjoying this conversation today. I think you get it, and I feel really good about it.
I think it's more time. I think things will evolve and we'll get more information from everything, and I think it's great.
Can I just, real quick, because I know we got to move on. I think the biggest thing is define what the need is. First thing in my head is it's got to be one gigantic district and a bunch of small ones. But define what the need is, and maybe the districts can represent push and tug with other places of revenue. So that's where there's Measure J funds. There's other places of revenue that the city can, if they defeat if that's important to certain parts of the business, right? There's tourism, and then there's also local stuff, and so everything's different. I think that needs to kind of be defined for what you're looking for.
So this actually will now leads very much into the next on marketing campaigns.
Can I ask
Yes.
really fastly? Sorry, my kid is waking up in the middle of the night, so I'm a little tired today. Excuse my words. So we're going to bring back what's existing on the books and find out. We're going to bring back if there are other tools or other models. I'd love to know comparable cities like Santa Barbara or you name it, and then bring some more in-depth information, and we can just go from there. Thank you.
Okay, so, marketing, and I brought this up, it was the Palm Springs holidays. So I think I've mentioned it to almost everybody here, about trying to create a holiday destination for Palm Springs in December, which is typically a slow time after the first week, really, right? And then it sort of slows down until Christmas. People do not see Palm Springs as a holiday destination, which I think is unfortunate because it's the way that people are experiencing holidays now, especially for shopping, is they want that Main Street local experience. We have Randy's here from the Bureau of Tourism, and Kimber Alias is here from Visit Greater Palm Springs, because we also don't really have a lot of conferences and conventions at that time, in December. So it is a perfect time to sort of rally this together, and the hotels need to have some drive to it, and it's also very good for the community, for people who stay here. So PS Resorts did say that they would give $35,000 for a program. So this also goes back to what a BBID could go towards, and the city may give some money for specific things. And so part of what we're trying to do is figure out where to go. And I don't know, Randy, do you want to listen or talk? Or Colleen, do you want to listen or talk? Or I will.
Either way, I'm here to help support. I mean, we're excited about creating a holiday experience for Palm Springs. I think it is something that we could easily market and promote. We do promote the holidays from a Visit Greater Palm Springs standpoint in a variety of ways. But creating a brand for Palm Springs proper makes a lot of sense. We have another model that we do this with for Indian Wells. They do Winterfest. So we already have a little bit of experience in creating that custom sort of experience there. So I know that there's a few steps that need to happen before we can launch. But we're right now building the media plan. Next week we'll be finalizing a logo for everyone to take a look at. And then Randy will be building a custom landing page so that we can aggregate all of the great events and things that are happening. And then, of course, when we finalize the media plan, we'll be pushing that out in a variety of ways. So that's what we have right now. Randy, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Oh, I just have one. We did purchase the website palmspringsholiday.org. The .com wasn't available, so we grabbed that.
Okay. So I'm going to just share, if you look at, there's a number of different websites, and I think I've shared it. Chestnut Hill does it, and Nantucket does, every city does it. And so the benefit we have is we already have a lot of events that go on. Most of our events are geared towards going to the event and going home. So whether it's the Festival of Lights or the tree lighting. However, we do have I have to send out the list. So we do have a market every Thursday. So we already have that. And what some cities I've seen do, like I think in Philadelphia, is they just create a night where every store gives out, food and cookies or cider or whatever. And you just sort of announce that this is the night that's happening, and not everyone has to participate. But people sort of tend to do it if it's a template to fit in. There's a lot of cities that get carolers. We have about 5 or 6 different nonprofit music and choral groups here that could, if we had still have money in our grants and sponsorships. If we gave, the MTU kids or the Modern Men or Gay Men's Course $1,000 to do it, they actually it creates a holiday thing. So I did make a list of all the events that I found just quickly, and these are some business ones, some nonprofit, some city. But you can see there's already a lot to start with to create this branding thing. I sent it to you. So it might be the same thing. Oh, they did print it out then. Okay.
Yeah, we have it.
Okay. So, and this is sort of, some of these are nonprofit events, some are actually businesses, but then what you have to add on is something down, in different areas. And I don't know if different parts of the city want to do it or just downtown, but I think what you could do is then people could start to create their own events. Joy could have her own holiday open house and add that on. And I think Arenas could, they have the street bar event. I really want the walk of the drag green Santas, but I have to figure out how to make that happen.
And then if we can get the hotels to create some packages to go along with that, I think that would be a great thing to promote as well.
And one of the things I know that I keep hearing from the merchants, particularly one in particular, is we need to make sure we're pushing that locally too. Yes, it's great to bring people from outside, but we need to make sure that we are promoting for our own local people, because sometimes, and I work both with all of the groups. We focus so much on outside. Where are we focusing on inside and getting the person to come from South Palm Springs down here and the one from Cathedral City and La Quinta and anywhere else? So I think we need to make sure that.
Yes, that's a main part of the media plan is focusing local as well as drive market. And then we also geofence during the time period. So for people who maybe didn't hear about us, they get served ads to realize, oh, this is happening right now. I'm here. So there's a combination of local, drive market, and geofence when people are actually here in the plan currently.
Excuse me. I'm not trying to get attention. I'm actually clearing my throat, but I did have something to say. To echo what you were saying, the first question I have is when
Wait,
you guys.
before you go, we do need something from Grit, though.
What's that?
Is communication to your businesses who are not part of the other groups about this. And I've talked to Michael about it because a lot of them are not on any of our lists. And this is just, they probably all do something holiday and they should just know what's going on, especially the retailers.
Okay.
So,
I've been making some notes, so I'll pass along.
okay. Michael is,
The holiday would be, it would be great to do something for the holidays and get the local, especially the
yeah.
local people.
He was a big advocate at PS Resorts. All the hotels are very much supportive of starting this as an annual thing. So I know you had to go, but.
Yeah, sorry, I just have to be somewhere.
So it's the communication that we'll need, but we'll follow up.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Actually, question for you folks. Is it difficult? What is your response from local marketing? Like if you're trying to reach Down Valley, does it work?
What do you mean the response?
When you're marketing to down here, do you find that it's actually they're responding to it, they're paying attention to it? Because that's to me would be the challenge, right? Is somebody in Indian Wells actually looking at tourist websites for the valley versus
Yeah.
an on-air ad on KESQ or something like that?
Sure. So the media plan, which would be the ads that would be served, would point to the website, but they would be served an ad. They wouldn't necessarily find us from actively looking on our website, but they would be served an ad because we've targeted them. And then they would be interested and then click on the ad and then be driven to the website to see more information. So that's what we see work very well. On social media, digital, programmatic, a bunch of other ways that we do that. Radio, a lot of ways. So we have a full multimedia plan that we were going to recommend to support this. So yes, we do see success with that.
And I think Kimber said you have a lot of followers of your social media are regional.
Yes, so we were recommending, I know there was some conversation about creating new social media channels, but because there's, I think over 100,000, 53,000, to do that would sort of alienate the audience that already exists. You'd have to build it up from scratch. So you really want to take advantage of the people who already love you. So we would just rebrand those pages with the new logo during the holiday season. That would be on the main page. We would update it. So it'd be very holiday feeling, but it would still be to that audience as opposed to creating new channels because you're sort of not going to reach all the people that you could.
And this website I said that.
Use the mic, Randy.
That's a redirect, so actually the content's going to be sitting on visitpalmsprings.com. It's just you send that out as a marketing so that, it's holiday, kind of a holiday
Pushes to a
theme.
page within. Visit
Right,
Palm Springs.
but sort of when the holiday goes away, that information is evergreen, so it still is there for the next season.
Right.
You just refresh it.
The reason why I asked that, though, is because this valley is packed in December. And specifically and mostly packed down valley versus here. And there's opportunity there, which I think is a brilliant idea, pushing the holiday event, the month. And those first 3 weeks, people are spending money on other people. And so it's one of the rare times where retail can drive, restaurants and bars and stuff like that versus where a lot of times it's kind of a vice versa. And so people coming into here from Down Valley, getting them to know that we are a shopping destination and we have all of these places that people can spend money. And for example, Smoke Tree, right? There's great places to eat at and a bunch of stores there. this is a local thing more than a tourist thing, because I'm not sure you're going to convince a bunch of Angelinos who have holiday parties every weekend leading up to the holidays to come down here as much as you're going to get more of the locals here. And I think that, you know, we need to fill the hotels, and I get that, but we also probably want to make sure we start creating an event out of it, because if it starts happening down here, then you can get more people to start traveling there. Okay, this is the place you can go to that.
It's both, Dean. It turns out to be, what is it, in Riverside, the inn? Mission Inn does the lighting, and that brings people there. They're not staying overnight
And
there.
don't forget, we have the Festival Lights Parade. That brings in almost 100,000 people. And the city could certainly piggyback with the CVB. We do a huge marketing campaign for the tree lighting and the Festival of Lights Parade, and we do a sponsorship with NBC Palm Springs. So, you know, that means PSAs with their talent, and we can certainly direct everybody when we start doing those to PalmSpringsHolidays.org, so that, because we'll be doing, you know, marketing on the Desert Sun and a variety of different ways that'll just take people straight there. And to be perfectly honest, the majority of people that come in for that parade are local. We get a lot of people from Beaumont, Banning, Yucca Valley as well. But that, you make a really good point. I think, you know, we could really sort of highlight everything through some of the marketing that we'll be doing.
Because you want to build the event, right? And so if the valley itself knows that for that 3-week period, this is the place to be, and there's always something happening for the holidays, and you come up with a name for it too, you know.
We are a place to be for sure. So what's your vision next steps? I mean, you got a calendar somewhat done. You're starting the website. Where do you see this going?
Well, Visit Palm Springs. Visit Palm Springs is going to lead the branding and the social media and the marketing campaign. Then I think we're going to need to get what's not involved there is to create some kind of template events that everybody can buy into, which is whether it's carolers or stores, you know, stores giving out food and drink, you know, one or two nights a week. I think that's where we have it. We sort of rebrand, I don't know if they want to do it, Village Fest as the holiday market for the month. And you sort of have like a lot of this stuff that's already there. I think the truth is that it probably is going to be very much local and drive in the beginning. But if you can get the package and branding right, which Visit Palm Springs and Visit Greater Palm Springs always does, it will grow into a let's go to Palm Springs for a weekend or a week. And because there's so much going on. And we haven't really included things down Valley as events, but the truth is there are, and it's enough of a reason to come. So that's
Another
my
thing
vision.
we might want to think about is reaching out to PS Resorts. I know December is a slower month. We might be able to talk to the hoteliers about doing special rates for hotel rooms so that we do keep people from down Valley coming for different events, whether it's the parade or, you know, the walk of inns or there's a tram tree lighting. There's so much that, you know,
They've
could
talked
do.
a little bit about that. They're very much, they want to do this because they are seeing, they saw how July and August have gone back to pre-COVID and December is going back to pre-COVID, that this is now something they're seeing as their mandate to create an event that will be a tourism. So I think they're very supportive.
And then once we get sort of the branding worked out, we'll also put a voice to that, so that'll be creating some content. So some of the stuff that goes out that you think of are ads, they actually they're not just ads, they go to content on the website, which is intended to create some excitement around the holiday season. So that all has to, I'll be creating that too.
And how you're going to do a robust calendar of events that people can add to, the businesses?
We sort of already have that.
Yes, so Randy's referring to writing some blog content that would be hosted on the website, and we usually push that out via like a native ad or a social media ad. So it really tells the story about the holidays and sort of how you can experience it. So Randy's a great writer, and he'll be writing content on that. And then to kind of add to that layer from a Visit Greater Palm Springs standpoint, we'll also be hosting on our website information on the event as well. So you'll have the Visit Palm Springs as well as the Visit Greater Palm Springs, which we get over 3 million people to our website too, so lots of eyeballs. We do a lot of holiday roundups and content, and on our calendar, we can have all the events on our calendar as well. So I think it'll be a great multi-layer way to approach it as well.
That's great. When Joy and I did the Pop-Up Palm Springs, you know, we sort of created this template like, okay, everybody do an event. And people had all different kinds of events. Some of them were like, we're gonna have a sale, and, you know, some of them had live music, and, you know, we had a chalk artist. And so I think once you say, send us what your special event is, I think businesses will create, I mean, a number of them will create something. And
then this landing page will help make it so its stuff's not all over the place. It'll pull it all together.
So, and I agree, I think that's good, and we can help, and I'm sure Nona will help, and we can push all these things out to say, submit your events. I agree, I think that would be nice to do some kind of a holiday market downtown. I think that's great. Do you know, when you do Santa things and you do, you know, you need to make sure we're representing all faiths, all everything. And the other is, I don't know if it's Main Street or who, but if it's Main Street, Joy, or who, that would do some kind of like a carolers. I can tell. But to do some kind of, like Jeffrey's been talking, you know, carolers down each street, who coordinates that? Jeffrey, who, is that something?
so,
Jasmine.
Jasmine Waits.
Jasmine Wood, I have been warned not to give city staff too much work.
I was gonna say.
Because I'm getting in trouble now, so.
You know, there's a lot of things we could do, and Jasmine, I'm sure, would be willing to help with that, because we've already created quite a few events for December that are new to Parks and Recreation. And the other thing I was going to bring up is, don't forget we have a new canine mayor. So I'm reaching out to make sure that our canine mayor comes to some of our holiday events, and I think we should really promote that. I'm going to try to get him. Buddy Holly's going to be the canine grand marshal of the Festival Lights Parade, so we'll hopefully have him in some of our public service announcements.
If they're
So
You got it.
I did also talk to MTU, the kids from the high schools who they have a holiday program.
Right.
Oh,
So
great.
they're sort of like, it's a nonprofit, if they got, I don't know, $500,000, they'd probably come, you know, every week, you know, to do it. I'm sure if you did it with Modern Men, whatever, if someone said, here's where you should go, here's the hours you should do it and the days you should do it, I think it would be I shouldn't say fairly easy, it wouldn't be too overly complicated to organize.
If you gave the parameters that said they have to do this to this, from this time to this time, and just put it out there and said, here's a schedule, here's a calendar, look for the opening, and do it, I think that might be something that staff, not to throw again there, but could easily just calendar it and say, yep, it's open, you're in, follow the parameters, move on.
And it seems like we pick 1 or 2 days a week. I mean, we have Thursday nights, there's Village Fest, we don't want to compete with that. You know, it's probably either Friday or Wednesday.
We don't want to compete, of course, with Village Fest, but we need to find a way to get the businesses more involved with Village Fest. So I could tell you that we're bringing back the BOLT program, which is businesses open late Thursday. It has probably a $500 budget. So we will be asking, and we just need some signs that go in the window, just like we did for Pop-Up Palm Springs. Maybe it's even less than that, I don't even know. But to be able, so that people would also maybe look at the businesses on the street, because that's the biggest complaint from the businesses on Thursday, is that everybody's doing Village Fest, but they're not coming into the actual businesses. I personally don't have that problem, but I know that a lot of people say that.
Yeah, but we are getting people downtown, so it seems like we still have like the other nights where there is not people coming. So let's.
I know you guys are running long, so I gotta make this one real quick. Just my 2 cents on this list is great, but it's a bunch of different individual things that get lost in the shuffle. The best thing I can say, and I don't know how hard or easy it might be, is to come up with a way of branding the whole thing. you know, 25 days of Christmas, whatever, 25 days of holidays, and give it some sense of connectivity, and then ask the
That's what we're
businesses.
doing, yeah.
Yeah, and then ask the businesses to buy in on, to like give them that opportunity. And I would look at renaming things like Holiday Fest or something instead of Village Fest, or little things like that where.
That's what we were saying, yeah. Now, I mean, I do think we want this Palm Springs Holidays or Holiday Palm Springs, it should have Palm Springs in it. You know, originally we talked about Desert Holidays, but then the whole valley could take that over. We want a Palm Springs event.
And it's
I
the
agree.
first year, so we gotta understand that, it's the first year, it can grow. So there's gonna be some failures and some things that or maybe some things that aren't as great, but you gotta get out there
The
first.
overall branding is the key to it. I mean, I think that's that, and then a couple template events that we can have downtown, and then you make a calendar and a blog of all these things that are going on. They are disparate, but it is a reason, you know, if you came here for one of these weeks, there's 10 things to do.
Yeah, I think this is great. I really support this. I would support if we have capacity to help with Parks and Rec. For me as a toddler parent, I know just personally, like we are desperate for activities. I've already like searched the Desert Rec District manual about all the holiday events and put them on my calendar, and there's lots of us like that. So I think that this is really helpful to have it in one place where it's findable, because I think often we have events like even last night's event with PSPD National Night Out, we just didn't have a lot of people there, but it was a great service to the community. So I also care about providing it for the community. I would love to leverage Village Fest too, so just like leverage what we have, like if the retailers and Main Streeters can participate in that. I really want to leverage our downtown park, which we're not using very well, and that's on my to-do list. So, you know, I love when Village Fest expands, you know, down that street or to the park, or we have community events. That would be, I think of like the Christmas markets, our holiday markets in Europe, which are so amazing. So being able to leverage our park would be really good.
I was going to suggest that to Jasmine that
Yeah.
we, for Village Fest, maybe expand and market into
Yeah.
the downtown park.
Like it's like just like a community square where they have the holiday markets in Europe, you know, in those little squares. I think that'd be really cool. I was gonna say one thing before we leave.
Joe, just, real quick, Joe, say it, because say what it was.
How about a little ice skating rink, temporary ice skating where the babies used to be, right there next to
That's
Maryland?
been proposed.
Yeah, Sacramento does that downtown. It's really successful.
Walnut Creek, we did that when I was on planning commission up there every year. It was
It'd be
a
so
big draw
fun.
to the mall and to the downtown business.
Yeah, I think
Let's
Lisa
do
has
it.
also mentioned that the pit doesn't quite work because of safety access, but there are other places you could do it, a small one, but it's expensive. But
Very.
this
Yeah.
is,
But it supports itself.
You can bring the Firebirds in.
this is what you look at next year. I mean, the one thing we have in the park, there is a concert in December, but not that it's a holiday one, but still a concert, still an event.
And then, yeah. So I think I think I had one more thing, but I lost it. That's okay. This is really exciting. I think people will be excited, residents too, to provide this to our community is great.
So we're gonna have to rely on Visit Palm Springs, Visit Greater Palm Springs, DBA, Arenas, Main Street, and the Chamber to help get the word out, because this has to happen. This has to really like launch
Just get us consistent
this month.
communication.
I remember my other thought. So one thing I noticed about Festival of Lights is everyone comes in from Down Valley or wherever, and then they leave. And I know a lot of people have kids and a lot of people have bedtime, but it still seems like a missed opportunity to have 100,000 people come into our streets and be lined up and then just go home. And so we should think about leveraging the Festival of Lights to something, whether it's shopping late or whether it's ice skating or whatever it is. Well, they're there, yeah, like in the afternoon, but yeah. Anyway, just like as we put on our list of things to think about.
Just so you guys are aware, because I asked her the question, is that a good day for you guys, business-wise? And the answer is no.
No.
It's not a good,
it's
it's not a good day.
quite poor.
A Festival of Lights.
Festival of Lights.
And
People are making their places along the curb. They're taking all the parking, and we're glad to have them, and it's wonderful, but we're donating our business that
So,
day.
to echo what Christy was saying and stuff is if there's a way to leverage all these human beings to actually patronize our businesses, that would be quite nice.
Yes, and I think some of the restaurants do well, but I think this is all part of the discussion, because we've known this for years at
We've
Festival
known
of
this for
Lights.
years.
But part of it is, like, why would anybody come in for that weekend? Now, I know that you've already started adding more, they started adding other events on, but now, even if it drives everybody to come on, stay for Sunday and shop, or Friday and shop, now it sort of changes it. Not that all the people in the valley would stay overnight, but I think some would. And some may travel to Palm Springs for a week if they can do all these different things. So that's sort of in the future, but I think it's really the branding and the template events, and enjoy, you can talk to Main Street about what could be template events. Arenas?
I have to go before daycare closes.
What's that?
I have to go before
Okay.
my daycare closes, so
Okay.
you can finish, right?
I will finish. This meeting is now scheduled. It is the first Wednesday of the month, every other month.
December 6th.
December 6th. I think that's right.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
It's December 6th.
It is a regular event, so that it does have
Palm
to,
Springs Chamber.
yes. Yes. So, and then we'll be having our Palm Springs holidays during that time. So, 3:30, yep. And that way, we'll start to get the word out. We'll have our new business administrator then. He's got 3 big projects to work on already, and then we can look at the other agenda items. So, I'm not going to add more agenda items, since our agenda items will be these agenda items. Is there any other comments before we adjourn?
Can I just say, I didn't mean to throw Jasmine into the mix without her being here. She's just so darn good at what she does that I don't know.
I
what
did
we'd do
want her to
without
come but I think the conversation is, what can she do easily that will not,
Yes, I definitely think I'm going to talk to her about the Christmas market, and that may be something we can.
and the carolers, maybe she could help
Yep.
figure that. I mean, I have sources, but it would be
Okay.
I can orchestrate, some of it.
Right.
And the Desert Wind and Freedoms Band could go on one of the plazas and play, but that requires a special event permit, I think.
And you were thinking carolers for the Village Fest event?
No.
Oh.
Carolers on like a Sunday night or a Friday night.
Okay.
Some other time to do
Okay.
it.
I'll talk to her about that.
Otherwise, you're competing with too much noise.
Oh, she's calling me right now.
Okay, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 5:06. I think it was productive. And especially for the new administrator, who has a whole. All right. I will see everybody soon. Okay, bye.